Hey everyone, this is FIDE Master Kostya Kavutskiy here for Chess.com, and today I'll be showing you guys the highlights of the 6th week in the United States Chess League. So this week had a lot of exciting games. We had a lot of really sharp counterattacks, especially from the black side. The game I'm showing you guys right now is actually one game of the week. This is between Mark Esserman playing white for the Boston Blitz against GM Tamaz Gelashvili playing black for the New York Knights. And this was one of the more exciting games of the week, and here Gelashvili playing black found a really nice combination to pretty much end the game just out of the opening, really. And here Gelashvili used the open H file to full effect and sacrificed the piece with the move knight c takes e5. So the point of this move is that after d takes e5, knight takes e5, black has a really simple and banal threat of knight takes f3 and queen h2 checkmate. And surprisingly, white actually doesn't have a decent defense to this. For instance, if white plays something like rook e1, a really cool line is simply knight takes f3, queen takes f3, queen h2 check, king f1. And here black can do something like rook h3 going, for the full-on attack. But also I think a move like rook takes c1 might be pretty strong too. The point being, if rook takes c1, black plays queen h1 check, attacking the king, attacking the queen, and skewering the rook on c1. And after queen takes h1, rook takes h1 check, king moves, rook takes c1. Black is up a couple of pawns, and this pin is pretty deadly, and white can basically resign. Next is bishop f6 and bishop takes b2. And that's probably not even the strongest line. Perhaps black should simply play rook h3 and go for the immediate kill. But instead, the game here continued king g2. At this point, white really doesn't have a way to avoid getting mated or lose a lot of material, so Esserman was really just trying to find the most tricky continuation he could to try and survive for as long as possible. But with a couple of more accurate attacking moves, Gelashvili was able to finish things off pretty quickly. He played knight takes f3, king takes f3. Of course, if queen takes f3, black would simply play queen h2 checkmate. So king takes f3 was necessary. And white's dream here is, to put their king on e2 and maybe put some pieces around it and try to defend with their king in the center of the board. But if black doesn't give white a chance to breathe or set up some kind of defense, they can win the game really quickly. And that's exactly what happened. Rook h3 check was played, a nice attacking move, king e2, and now queen c4 check. Basically, black isn't giving white any time to consolidate, and he keeps making good attacking moves. So the game ended bishop d3, queen takes g4 check, king d2, but here Gelashvili found a really cool combination to finish things off. He played rook takes d3 check, white had to recapture, queen e4 check, king d2, and rook c4. And here white decided to simply resign because their king is stuck in the center, and basically black is playing rook d4 check next move, and they're going to win white's queen. And with so many extra pawns and the king still being weak and black's queen being so strong, white decided to throw in the towel, and that's a pretty reasonable decision considering black is just completely winning here. The next game I wanted to show you guys is between FM Robbie Adamson of the Arizona Scorpions and I am Vitaly Niemer of my own team, the St. Louis Archbishops. So here Niemer playing black was under some serious pressure here with white's bishop being on h6 and their pawn getting ready to take on g6. And here Niemer decided to launch a fierce counter-attack, which was kind of the theme for this week's US Chess League action. And he played the move b5. Now the point of this move is pretty obvious. Black is trying to play b5, attack the bishop, and then play b4, try to open up the b file or the c file, and counterattack and checkmate white's king. So after bishop d3, attacking the knight, Niemer went ahead and played b4 anyways. And to his credit, this was a really brave decision because the attack, the piece sacrifice, allowing white to take bishop takes e4, is actually not sound. And with perfect play, white could have won the game in just a few moves. But this was a huge risk he had to take, and that's how it usually rolls in the US Chess League. You take risks, sometimes they pay off, and sometimes they don't. This week, Niemer was able to get a bit lucky, and with a bit of help from his opponent, was able to win a pretty beautiful game. So after bishop takes e4, he played b takes c3, and his idea, of course, is to play rook b8 and rook takes b2 or queen takes a2 and pretty much checkmate white's king. But the problem is that white here should have just played f takes g6, launching a counter attack, if you will. And the thing here is that white is threatening to take on f7 and then launch their own attack against black's king, and I think here white is just getting there faster. Of course, if either pawn takes on g6, white will gladly capture this way and easily win because the bishop on f6 ends up hanging. So I'm not really sure actually what Adamson was worried about in this position. Clearly he saw that this idea would be strong, but he must have seen some ghost threat or have been worried about something. But if a move like rook b8 was played, threatening rook takes b2, white could simply play g takes f7 check and king takes f7, probably just bishop takes h7. And next is queen g6, and it definitely looks like black's king is getting mated first. If black ever plays c takes b2 in these lines, the white king can simply play king b1, and black doesn't have the attack because, this pawn blocks everything and actually gives the white king some shelter. So unfortunately for white, they must have underestimated their own attack or seen some ghost threat, because here Adamson decided to play rook e1, which seems like a solid move, just overprotecting the bishop, but it just gives black enough time to launch a decisive attack. And after the move rook b8, black is already winning. The threat is rook takes b2, and white simply doesn't have a good defense here. If a move like b3 is played, well then the queen gets to come to a3 with check, king b1, and simply c4. And black just has too much pressure along the b file. They're simply threatening to take on b3, and white's going to have to give up their queen and probably get mated anyways. So instead of b3, Adamson played bishop g5, trying to trade off this monster dark scored bishop. Niemer captured on g5, and now if white recaptures, of course they're still up the piece, but they have to deal with rook takes b2, which is a pretty devastating threat. If the queen moves to d3, they can play queen a3, for instance, and white's king is basically just stuck in a mating net, and black is going to be mating in short notice. So Adamson's idea was that after bishop takes g5 was to play b3, and this unfortunately just comes up short. Black played c4, the idea being that white can't take because of queen a3 followed by mate. He took f takes g6, but this is simply too little too late. Black's attack is just crashing through and doesn't have to worry about white's counterattack anymore. C takes b3, g takes f7, and just king takes f7. And black's attack is again crashing through first. White has no good threats, and black is threatening pretty much everything. Queen a3 check, taking the queen, b takes a2 even, and white, is simply lost. So the game ended queen e2, queen a3 check, king b1, and c2. And here Adamson decided to simply resign. And the last game I wanted to show you guys today was right here, and this is between Matt Herman of the New York Knights playing white against Dennis Schmella of the Boston Blitz playing black. And here white had just played this move b5, attacking black's knight. And instead of retreating the knight, Shmelov decided to go for the counterattack with queen d7. A really strong move, simply threatening queen g4 check and taking white's knight on f3. And here we can see the drawback, of course, of white, expanding on the king side and pushing their pawns, that their own king ended up being incredibly weak. So knight bd2 was played, queen g4 check, king f1, and now e4. Black is simply ignoring this knight on c6 and launching a decisive counterattack. So now if white retreats with knight g1, simply bishop h2, and this poor knight is threatened, and if it moves to e2, then queen h3 is simply mate. So instead b takes c6 was played, e takes f3. Now both sides have won a piece, but obviously black was able to get their pawn to f3, which is a really strong attacking asset against the white's king. So white played queen e3. Simply b takes e6. I really like this move, just recapturing the pawn and opening up a new diagonal for black's bishop to attack white's king. c4 was played, bishop a6. White took this pawn on f3, bishop takes c4 with check, king e1, and after rook e8, white simply had to resign. The pin along the e-file was too strong and would obviously win a lot of material here. So a couple of really cool counterattacks by the black pieces this week. This game didn't end up in the Game of the Week contest, but I thought it was a pretty interesting game nevertheless, so I wanted to share that with you guys. Make sure to check out Chess.com TV for all the weekly US Chess League action. They're covering every match Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and it's open and free to all members of Chess.com, so definitely do check that out. Thanks a lot for watching. This was FIDE Master Kostya Kavutskiy for Chess.com.